Hey guys, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now if this is your first time here, and you enjoy watching ESO gameplay, seeing new builds, or just want to get better at ESO itself, then start by subscribing now and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Now today guys, I'm going to share with you my Magicka Nightblade PvP build called Shroud that is designed for the Dragonhold patch. This build works in all content, battlegrounds, Cyrodiil that's with and without CP, as well as duels. I have included now some footage of me testing it a while back, just to show actually this is really strong, even with some passives missing, and obviously the build video is optimised. This is a Magblade with just insane sustain, as you'll see on the character sheet, and this just allows us to fight after fight with ease, as well as staying in the fight a lot longer than we could normally, as we can afford to maintain our heals, our shields, and just stay really tanky. Now we have a really high magic pool as well, nearly 42,000, and our spell damage is just under 3k fully buffed, and this is on top of 18k pen, so this means we hit stupidly hard. But what makes this really nuts is just the fact that we have 3,200 regen on our character sheet, and that is even before our 600 regen from the elemental drain, and that's before potions and stuff. So it means with potions and elemental drain and stuff we have over 4,000 regen. That is just absolutely bonkers. Now this combined with the Nightblade's just evasiveness means that we're really hard to take down, as we can teleport on demand and cloak without any real sort of penalty. If we really wanted to, we could sit in cloak permanently and attack from stealth. And then when we pair this with our stupidly high stand pool, we can just sneak around, roll, dodge, and just be really evasive, especially for a Magicka character. Now what's really nuts is that we have nearly 30,000 resistance, and when we take into account some of the sets that we have and the damage mitigation they give, we have nearly 33,000 effective mitigation. And if you pair that with minor protection on top, it just means we can take a real beating, even if for some reason we run out of resources. That is a rare occurrence, especially in CP. Now for me, this feels like it's one of the strongest Magblade builds that I've played in quite some time, and it works for me, and I hope it works for you. Now if you are new to this channel and you haven't done so already, then subscribe by clicking the bottom right button on the screen now, and if you enjoy the video then why not like it and share it with a friend or two, or somebody in a guild. It will help out the channel, it will help out me. And with that said guys, we're going to jump into the build. As for our race, we are a high elf. A high elf personally is best in slot. It gives us extra stamina management due to one of the passives. We get max Magicka as well as spell damage. Alternatively, you could go as a Breton and just change a glyph. You could use any other race such as a Dark Elf or a Nord or even an Argonian, but you will need to change a glyph or two as well as the Mundus, and you might need to change some of the jewellery as well. But all of those races will work. For me however, I feel that High Elf is best suited for this damage spec, as our regen is already high enough as it is. As for the skills, we use Swallow Soul as our single target spammable. This does great damage and it heals us for some of the damage done. We use Mass Hysteria. This is our stun, it drops people's block, so this is brilliant. Crippling Grasp is a great ability, it does damage over time, it immobilises them, locking them in place, and it also reduces their speed if they can't be immobilised too, so really good skill there. Elemental Drain adds Major Breach, making us do more damage, and it also puts minor Magicka still, giving us more Magicka sustain as well. Merciless Resolve is a brilliant ability. It's single target burst after 5 light attacks. We build up this bow ability, we can fire it, doing a significant amount of damage and healing us in the process. Soul Harvest is our ultimate. This hits really hard when it's fully buffed up, and it adds Major Defile, stopping people's healing too. Really good ultimate. As for the back bar, we use Siphoning Attacks. This is a buff that gives us healing as we do light attacks and Magicka back, so really worth keeping this on. Rapid Regen, this is a brilliant burst heal, especially paired with Dampen Magic, which is a nice shield. You can put Dampen Magic on and then this, and you'll recover really fast. We then use Shadowy Disguise as we're a Nightblade. This is brilliant for getting out of the fight. If you get rushed by people, just pop invisible and they can't hit you. And if things go really south, use Shadow Image. This will allow you to teleport to it. It does a little bit of damage, but more importantly, it reduces the target's damage by 15%. So if you're on a one-on-one fight, try to keep this up at all times. Really strong ability, and it's a good oh no button. As for our ultimate, we run Temporal Guard. This gives us minor protection at all times, reducing our damage. You could change this for something else if you prefer. I personally like using Soul Shred and then move it to Soul Tether. This morph is great, it's a good oh no button. It heals you, damages the target, nothing wrong with that. Alternatively, if you want to go down and have just more sustain, go to support. Unlock barrier, you can then pick reviving or replenishing, up to you. Personally, I think reviving is better. And then you pick Magicka aid, get 2 of these, and when this is slotted you'll gain 10% more Magicka regen just for being on this bar. You don't actually have to cast this ability. Alternatively, and what's arguably one of the best options, is if you run the restoration staff, you go to Panacea and you morph it to Life Giver. This is the better morph here. This will cast all of those abilities, as you can see: Regeneration, Blessing of Protection and Steadfast Ward. It does also cast their morphs, so you want to morph them, and I would suggest having Blessing of Restoration. If you want a bit more damage though, you could use Combat Prayer, and when you do your Resto ult you get a bit more damage too, so nothing wrong with that. This is just a bit more armour. Personally, Blessing of Restoration is better. Grand Healing, you would then want to morph this into Healing Springs. This will give you Magicka back as well for using your Restoration staff ult, which is great. So Life Giver can be a really strong ultimate, and it's really cheap, as is Soul Harvest. And with the monster set, as you can see, Bloodspawn, we have really high ultimate generation as it is already. If you are somebody who's wanting to drop the restoration staff, you can run Sword and Shield. You will have to change a few things, change Rapid Regen to something that you see is more useful. For me, that might be something from the major skills such as Degeneration. I would highly recommend keeping Cloak on. As for the front bar, I would keep all of the skills as they are. You may want to change Crippling Grasp, however, to run Degeneration. That will then free up your LB, which I've got, and you can then run Mark Target. I pick Piercing Mark, meaning that those pesky Nightblades that are against you will be able to be seen in stealth. Degeneration is the other morph of this, and this will give you the minor Magicka still as well as the dot. So you can still keep the extra Magicka sustain by just changing this morph, and it then frees up access to this skill here. Ultimate on the front bar, that stays pretty much the same. You could go with the Soul Tether if you prefer, as it's an AoE and hard to dodge. Alternatively, you can go to the Destruction Staff, go Elemental Storm, and morph this to Eye of the Storm so it follows you. And as you can see, it does 5,800 damage every second. It hits really hard and it follows you, so you can chase people around with it. If you are a vampire, you could use Bat Swarm instead. As for the build, guys, we are running Spinner's Inferno Staff, Nirnhound, Shock Enchantment, Lich Restoration Staff Defending, Berserker Enchantment, Bloodspawn Heavy, Tri-Stat, Lich Chest, Tri-Stat, Bloodspawn Shoulders, Medium, Magicka, Spinner's Sash, Magicka, Glass of Lich, Magicka, Spinner's Trousers, Tri-Stat, Shoes of Lich, Magicka. Impenetrable on all of the body pieces. We then have one piece of Spinner's Jewellery. This could be the necklace or a ring, whatever's cheapest basically. We then have 2 Potentious rings. It's Magicka Recovery and Spell Damage. You want Arcane, Arcane and Arcane. You will need to transmutate the Potentes to Arcane. This comes in healthy normally. If you didn't want this set and you wanted a bit more damage or max Magicka, you could change this to Willpower, giving us 47,000 Magicka, as well as all the high recovery and all the high spell damage. What this combination allows us to do is have our spinners on our front bar. This gives us loads of damage and penetration, and on our back bar we only have the spinners 3-piece this time, so we go to the back bar, spinners is down to 3-piece, Lich is on to 5-piece. If you go to the front bar, the opposite happens. Lich is now to 3-piece, Spinners is to 5-piece. This means we get damage on the damage bar, and we go to our defensive and sustain bar. We can then get our sustain buff from Lich, and like Armor Master, this buff will transfer to your front bar. Now the Lich buff has just gone activated. As you can see, you've got 15 seconds. We switch to the front bar and now it's on. Our recovery on the front bar is 2,960 without a potion, and without taking into account elemental drain, that's another 600 there. When Lich runs off, as you'll see in a moment, we go down to 1,400 recovery now. So Lich is a great set for this kind of playstyle where we go to the back bar, put on a buff or so, go defensive if we need to, and then Lich will turn on, give us loads of Magicka back so we can get back in the fight really easily. Now if you want to change the monster set, Bloodspawn can be changed for Mighty Tudun. You could choose to run 2 pieces or 1 Mighty Tudun, and 1 pirate skeleton. Alternatively, if you are in a duel, you could go with 1 shadow rend and 2 shadow rend. That will give you Magicka recovery and it will give you extra damage and maim as well. So this is a really strong dueling setup here. If you wanted to do a bit more spell damage rather than this penetration that you can't see on your stat sheet, you could change this to New Moon, as we've got Lich for our extra sustain, so we could sustain with New Moon instead. I personally, however, found that the Spinners was better than New Moon, so I'd recommend keeping Spinners, but it can be expensive, so New Moon is a good alternative as it's crafted. As for our consumables, Tri-Stat food, pretty staple in my builds in all honesty. You could go with the gold food, it's just a bit too expensive, so I don't recommend it because, as I said, it's really expensive. Tri-Stat potion. If you are wanting to run a restoration staff and you need the spell damage buff, you could run the spell sort of power potions from the Alliance War, so the blue ones. They're really cheap to buy. Alternatively, you can make a bit fancier ones, but just make sure you get Major Sorcery or play alongside a DK, they'll give it to you anyway. As for our Mundus Stone, we are using the Mage, Tri-Stat food as I've said, and all attribute points into Magicka. For the CP, this is what I've done that I feel is the best for this kind of playstyle and how I like it. CP is always a bit personal, so do adjust it and tweak it to how you see fit. Anything that I think is important I will note. Pause the video where you see appropriate for you. We have got wind running. I quite like wind running in most of my builds, so you will see this is quite a common feature, this kind of middle setup here. We've put a little bit more into Blessed as we have a lot of passive healing, so we wanted to capitalise on that there. We don't really have many damage over time, so we don't need anything in Thaumaturge. Resistant at 44 is the jump point in light armor or medium or heavy, as long as you have full impenetrable, and that's for purple quality armor. We've put less than thick skin because we do have cloak, which suppresses all dot damage when we're invisible. That allows us to put more in quick recovery, giving us more healing received as well. Now this last section is where I just give you some tips and tricks on kind of how to survive, a few burst combos just to make your playstyle a bit easier. Now important buffs to maintain, Siphoning Strikes, that gives us Magicka back and also healing, so this is a really good skill to keep on. Now if I saw the target, so that target skeleton there, all I would do is I would move to a good position, so I might move behind something, put down my shade and then move back. The shade basically serves as an all no button. There are some add-ons on PC to tell you exactly how long is left and where it is and if you can teleport, so that it's definitely worth getting those if you do kind of play Nightblade a lot. And you can just push the skill again and teleport back. When you teleport back, it's quite good to move away again and put the shade down somewhere else. When you pair this with Cloak, it makes you really hard to kill. So if I'm fighting over here and the person's about to kill me, I can go shield, shade, roll and cloak, and now I'm gone. I might then put another shade over here and then cloak back through them so people don't know where I am. And if they find me over here, most people don't realise that I put a shade over the other side again, and I'm miles away from them at this point and I'm out of the fight. Now when I go into cloak, if I tap sneak, it then puts me into the sneak mode, and as long as I wasn't detected whilst I was invisible with cloak, I then go into sneak mode instantly, staying in stealth. So I push there, hit the crouch, and I stay invisible. This is really good for when you're moving around and you need to kind of get invisible but you're low on Magicka. I can simply put my shade. If I need to, I can teleport back, roll, cloak, tap sneak, and then when it pops out, I would stay invisible along as I tap sneak. So the shade is a really good Ono button, and when you pair it with cloak, as I've said, this is a good Ono button. If you are fighting something like a Magicka Dragon Knight, you will find it really hard to kill them because they have a lot of defense from your sort of attacks with their wings. They also have loads of dots as well. The cloak, however, suppresses dot damage. So if I'm being pressured by loads of dots, I might try and out heal it first and use my shield. If it's getting too much, I would simply move and just drop my shade and keep moving away. And then I could either pop a cloak or I can teleport whilst the DK's on me. And just by moving that far away, you can generally kind of outrun a DK because they're quite slow classes. If it's a Templar, however, you will need to adapt accordingly, and that's about keeping your shade well away from them because they've got a gap close. So as soon as you shade this time, rather than roll dodge, cloak instantly. Now they'll normally hit you with spear jabs, so if that happens, you can then switch to your front bar and do a cheeky fear, block, cloak, and move away. You will see in the footage that I sometimes chuck out fear and then go into cloak because people have to CC break. That gives me an extra second or two to escape. Now as for kind of damage combos, it's really simple. You see your target and you buff up like you would normally, so siphoning strikes, shade in a really good spot, so it could be behind an obstacle. And then when I see my target, I want to go Elemental Drain. That's a good thing to keep on them. And I would go Cripple. Ideally, you want to be out of the range of those abilities though, so I can get my Merciless on beforehand, because that has a really long buff. So I see my target, my shade's hidden, but I'd imagine I'll put my shade over here. I can't use Elemental Drain yet, so I go Merciless, Elemental Drain, Cripple, Light Attack, Siphon, and just keep doing light attacks like this. On every third one, I then want to do a Cripple again, and my bow is ready and I can fire. And again, I do 3 of those. Now, when my bow gets ready, I want to be moving to the target. So rather than kind of just sitting back here and shooting every now and again, which works, I want to start moving closer to them so that when I get here, I can go fear, incap, bow, block. Sometimes people will hear the bow proc, so they expect it straight away. So if the bow's ready and you want to try and trick them, if you're near them, do a heavy attack and then cripple. Most people will roll dodge thinking that's the bow, and then you shoot the bow. And then you catch them with the bow. And then you can go fear and into incap. You will find generally that if you can land Soul Harvest and then you can land your bow, you'll one shot most people or do pretty much all of their health. Now for me, what worked best is when my incap is ready, I just keep my bow ready and I'm just rotating it on them. Get lower Magicka, then my Magicka now goes up through the roof. I'll go incap, bow, and that will land. You will find that as soon as you hit incap, people roll dodge because they expect the bow straight away. So if you land the incap first, the Soul Harvest, before the bow is ready, and then you fear them, you can then get a free shot on the bow. And the bow hits harder than the Soul Harvest, meaning you'll do significantly more damage. So I would get my bow ready, I'd go incap, fear, block, bow, and then that would hit really hard. And if you're unaware, Soul Harvest makes your next attacks for 6 seconds do 20% more damage. That means your bow, that obviously does 19k, let's put on my charm and my major sorcery. The bow actually does 22,000 damage with 20% more on top. That's about 26k damage there. It is really, really hard hitting. I've hit people for 12, 15k with this ability here alone, followed by this. So between these two, you can pretty much do about 20 to 25k burst if you land it correctly. And because we have all the pen from this, and the penetration from spinners, and our CP, we hit really, really hard. Those are the kind of the main sort of offensive combinations. You might see that I sometimes, if I need resources, I just heavy attack, swallow soul, and they land together. So that's just something else for a good ranged combo. You can do it with the spectral bow. Heavy attack, spectral bow, swallow soul, block. And again, that will hit really, really hard together. But those are the main combos that I kind of use. Obviously, there might be other ones that you find better for you. For me, though, the big thing is really just keep those light attacks in, whatever skill you're doing, and you'll get your bow ready and your damage from that bow. Even if you're just doing this, doesn't sound like much sort of effort, but that bow, every sort of 5-10 seconds that's hitting them, that's about 8 to 12k every 5-10 seconds. So you're going to be hitting them really hard, really consistently, and that makes it really hard for them to recover. And then, as I said, you've got Soul Harvest for that major defile. Now, if you like this video, then obviously like it. And if you've got any questions or just have kind of any pointers to give me or just want to see something covered in the future, then obviously comment below. And if you haven't done so already, then consider subscribing because I post regular ESO content, including new builds. And with that said, guys, I'm going to jump off, so I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, take care guys, and bye!